As Camden National Bank celebrates 150 years of supporting local businesses, customers, and communities with their financial needs, we want to thank those who put their trust in us. You're the real reason we're celebrating this exciting milestone. And while we've grown to help more individuals and businesses, our commitment to giving back to our community remains constant. Whether it's joining in the fun at the Camden Snow Bowl for the annual US National Toboggan Championship, or serving cookies and cocoa at Christmas by the Sea, or handing out towels following the Camden Windjammer Festival lobster crate races in the summertime, we continue to immerse ourselves in our communities. That way, those who live here know they have a true financial partner. We're thankful for the work Camden Famous is doing to shine a light on the businesses and neighbors who have contributed to shaping this Mid-Coast community and our organization.
Welcome to the Camden Famous podcast. I'm your host, April Shaw-Beaudoin, and today we are interviewing the Apprenticeshop in Rockland, Maine. I am joined by Bella Feracci, who's the executive director at the Apprenticeshop, and Caitlin Sackville, who's the program director. Thanks so much for being part of the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, yeah.
The Apprenticeshop is a community that cultivates doers, thinkers, and makers here in the Mid-Coast, and they teach traditional boat building and seamanship. So today we are going to be talking all about what they do in Rockland and how their impact reaches far and wide across the Mid-Coast and how they're part of the community there. But first, I wanted to start with your stories. So, Isabella, I know that you were in New York for a while, and then you decided to come to Rockland and join the Apprenticeshop as an apprentice.
Yeah, so I had been working in New York City, living there, had gone to school there, and was in an office. I came from a family of artists and people who made things, but I never considered myself an artist or really gave myself the permission to try that kind of work. And as I was toiling away in an office, it was a transportation policy center. So the content of the work was interesting, but I was very much interested in getting my hands on things and seeing if I actually had some of my own creativity. So I asked my uncle, who had studied sculpture in an academic environment, what I should do. And I was shingling a house with him up in Brooklyn. I had taken a month off of my job in New York. And over the course of that time with him, asked, should I go study sculpture somewhere? And he said, no, on your way back down to New York, stop in at this place called the Apprenticeshop. If you can learn how to build a boat there, you can build anything. And I thought, oh, I guess I need to check this out. So I drove back down the coast, pulled in at the Apprenticeshop, walked in the door of the second floor shop, and saw all the tools and all the equipment, the bench space, the boats, and I had no idea what I was looking at. And I just had this incredible desire to understand what it was that I was looking at. And it was really, that was the impetus for it. I didn't know about sailing. I didn't know about building anything, but I just had this incredible curiosity and desire. And that was it. I decided to sign up for the 2-year program.
Wow. And what about you, Caitlin?
So I grew up in Maine, in southern Maine. I had never heard of the Apprenticeshop, though, as I was growing up. But I did get the opportunity to try sailing in high school. And it was not the easiest thing for me, but I kind of stuck with it and kept trying to get better at sailing and kept trying to find opportunities to get on the water as an adult. And then eventually I was lucky enough to work for a friend of mine who runs a charter business on a boat that she owns in Portland. And she took me under her wing, and I worked for her for 3 years running her business and sailing the boat. But I didn't know really anything about that work until she showed me how to do it. And then after I did that for about 3 years, I started looking for my next opportunity, the next chapter in my career. And that's when I found the job at the shop and how I got connected with Bella.
And have you built a boat? Did you go through
No.
any of the apprentice shop?
No, I've never. Well, I get a lot of opportunities to get away from my desk and do hands-on work and help with projects. But yeah, I've never built a boat. Every day I encounter like tools I've never seen before and new techniques that they're trying downstairs. So it's a great mix of, we work together in the office, but we still get to build things and do hands-on work too.
Or do you do any of the sailing then?
Yeah, so we have community programs and sailing programs, and I do get some opportunities to get out on the water, but we have a great team of instructors that teach folks how to sail on our boats.
Yeah, let's talk about the instructors. So you and I have talked before, Bella, and you said that you have maybe 10 full-time employees at the apprentice shop. And then in the summer that doubles when you have people teaching the sailing programs. So who are the 10 people? What does the team look like in the off season?
Yeah, so it's about 7 right now who are full-time staff teaching boat building on the shop floor to adults and youth. That's a year-round program. In the academic year, we work with local high schools and they bring in students about once a week to work on some small prams that we're building, that we've designed in-house and that we're building, or the junior apprentices are building. They'll launch in the spring and they'll be used by young people to sail in the summertime. So that program has a boat builder, an instructor. We also have boat builder instructor who works with our adult apprentices who are in long-term programs, 12 weeks, 9 months, or 2 years. And those are projects that might span 9 months, they might span a year or 2 years. So there's, instructors who are helping guide apprentices through those programs. We also have office staff who are dealing with program design, administrative functions in the office, marketing, and fundraising.
Well, to back up for a minute, I don't think we were done talking about your story. So you signed up for that 2-year apprentice program and it changed the whole course of your life.
Yeah, so I enrolled in the 2-year program. I did not have the intention of going into boat building. I just was desperate to learn how to build things. And after about a year being at the apprentice shop, I thought, there is so much to learn about this craft. I have not even scratched the surface. So I'm going to continue pursuing this if I can find a job after I graduate from the shop and see how far that takes me. And so I did get work through alumni and connections to ultimately Rockport Marine. And I worked there as a carpenter for 3 years on some really cool projects. And that was incredibly fun and rewarding. There were a few apprentice alumni who were older, who had been in the shop probably in the 80s. And one of them was my first project manager. And that was really cool experience because he understood the education that I had. He understood, where I had come from in my boat building journey. So that was a really great, he was a great mentor for me. So I worked there for 3 years and then I was craving building things of my own design. So I left Rockport Marine to go to the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship and did a 3-month furniture intensive there. I went back to the apprentice shop to teach for a year, then started working on my own building studio furniture that I designed and built for clients. I did that for several years before being asked to come on in a leadership position at the Apprenticeshop. And so I've been doing that ever since. And it's incredibly rewarding while I'm not working with my hands anymore. I feel that the importance is, for my role right now, where I can make the most difference is making sure that the Apprenticeshop is available for other people to access these skills and experiences. So I'm very committed to making this available for any and everyone who wants the experience.
And what do you think is so special about the Midcoast? So in this podcast, season 2, I want to talk about the businesses and the nonprofits that we have and the individual stories to how they became involved with those organizations. But also, the Midcoast is a big component. People love coming to Midcoast, Maine, and these places could exist in other parts of the country, and I don't think there would be the magnetism. So I always like to hear, what is that moment that you knew the Midcoast is where I want to be?
Do you want to talk about that, Caitlin, since you moved up here specifically?
Yeah, but I grew up in Maine, so I like.
But not on the Midcoast.
True. Well, I think like part of the reason we decided to move to the Midcoast was, to pursue a new job opportunity at the Apprenticeshop for myself, but also just to have access to the landscape and all the opportunities to be outside and how beautiful it is here. I think that's something that I hear a lot of people talk about, is just wanting to, be surrounded by nature and all the great opportunities to get out on the water there are here. It's like remarkably accessible. And I think the shop is an organization that makes it even more accessible for people who maybe don't own a boat or don't know how to sail.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was living in we lived in Portland for a long time before we moved here, and it's really hard to get out on the water. It's a working waterfront. It's a big like commercial shipping channel in the Fore River in Casco Bay, and it's not always like a lot of the access to the water in a recreational way is private. There's yacht clubs and where they're, it's working waterfront, like fishing, processing and all that. But I think here there's a lot of different ways you can access sailing and being on the water and playing in boats. So I think that's pretty special.
Your turn, Bella.
Well, I don't think that Midcoast was anything that was on my radar even remotely. It was just the Apprenticeshop that brought me here. And then I think it became in time a place where I couldn't imagine leaving. I think it had, well, I guess I remember my first time visiting Rockland and thinking, oh, okay, this place has a coffee shop, it has a movie theater, and it has this boat school that I want to go to. Okay, I think I can handle this.
Can make that
I
work.
moved from New York, but like it's got the coffee shop and the movie theater. So, it's a small town, but Rockland has this incredibly vibrant Main Street and downtown that, for me, I really want the Apprenticeshop to be a part of that vibrant downtown. And we're a little bit further north on Main Street, but we're right between Rockland Harbor and Route 1 Main Street. And it's this really neat, unique property that has the opportunity to be physically integrated with the downtown community. And I think culturally, we are a place that provides a service and opportunities to people that are not available elsewhere. So it just enriches the Rockland community.
Yeah, that was something when you and I talked before that struck me. So first of all, if you don't know where they're located, you'll have to say the exact address, but it's the most beautiful building on Main Street in Rockland. It has a mural
Yep.
on it. And I always thought that you could only go in there if you knew how to sail or if you had a mooring off the dock back there. So it felt inaccessible to me because I didn't know about it. So for the listeners who are tuning in and maybe have the same feeling that I do about the Apprenticeshop or did, do you want to explain a little bit about how the community can be involved?
Yeah, there's lots of ways to, experience the shop and engage with us. The most obvious way, I think, is to participate in programs that we offer or just come by and visit. Like, you can come into the shop when we're open. Liz is always excited to give people tours and show people around, especially if they've never been there before. It's always like really exciting to see people, seeing the shop for the first time and like realizing all the things that are going on in there. Because from the outside, from the street, it just looks like a cute building. And then it just kind of keeps going as you're like through the campus. So yeah, come in and visit and take a tour, sign up for a program. We have, if you want to deep dive into boat building, you can sign up for a 12-week intensive and build a Susan skiff, or spend 2 years like mastering that craft and working with master boat builders. Or we have weekend workshops where you can just get a little taste of working with wood and with tools. There's sailing, ways to get on the water. We have community sailing on Friday evenings in the summer.
Which is free to the
free,
public,
yeah,
correct?
free community sailing. We use our boats that were built at the
Wow.
shop, and it's all run by volunteers, and it's first come, first serve. So it's like meant to be as accessible as possible. You just come down and sign up, and you get out on the harbor for an hour or two. And at the most beautiful time of day and beautiful time of year, like we usually catch the beginning of the sunset, and sometimes depending on the conditions, you can get out to the breakwater lighthouse. And it's just fun to like get out on a boat with people in your community that maybe you haven't met before, and like make connections that way too. We have open houses, so like usually we'll invite the public every quarter to come into the shop, and we kind of focus each event on like a specific project or something that we're trying to like steer people's attention to or draw attention to. So you can come to an open house and like see the shop and meet the team and meet people who are doing programs there, but also learn about what's going on. Yeah. And then we have, all kinds of sailing programs as well. Youth summer sailing, which is always really fun. We have sessions throughout the summer for kids 6 to 14. And we teach sailing in like for all ages and all levels. They don't need to know anything. They can just show up and get on a boat. And
Amazing.
yeah. So programs are definitely one way that people can engage with us. But there's other ways as well.
I love how inclusive you are, because on your website and in talking to Bella in the past, it's from 6 to 76.
Yeah.
So you are really serving an enormous cross-section of the population. And I think, Bella, you mentioned that you also have a 400-foot pier or dock. What's the right word?
Yeah, so there's a fixed pier that's about 400 feet long. And then beyond that, we have floating docks that go in on a seasonal basis. And that supports all of our on the water activities. So we have our own fleet of boats. We have the fleet for high school sailing and summer youth sailing. And then we also rent space for the public to have dinghies. We've got about a little over 50 dinghy dock spots. We have some moorings and we have some slip space. So all of that is supported by that waterfront infrastructure. But the other thing is that you don't have to be a customer. You don't have to have a boat down there. The public is welcome to walk on the waterfront. So you can come down off Main Street. There are some stairs that go down by the Steelhouse South, which is our neighboring business. You can walk down the stairs there. You can come down our driveway on foot, and you can just enjoy the waterfront. People are down there taking pictures and walking their dogs. All of that is accessible 24/7.
I, like Caitlin, grew up in southern Maine, and so I grew up in Gorham, and I know how inaccessible the waterfront is. I know my husband and I went to have a picnic one day during COVID when there was nobody out, and we were told, "Hey, that's private property. Get out of here." And so that's something that I've still had to adjust up here, that there are lots of public access points. I always feel like I'm going to be in trouble for trespassing. So I'm glad that we can help get rid of that idea for other people like me who have gone by the apprentice shop and seen it. So the other thing we haven't talked about is when I got to go tour the apprentice shop a couple of weeks ago and have lunch with the team, which was so fun, and it made me want to work at the apprentice shop just so I could enjoy the Friday lunches with everyone. But there are boats being built right inside the building. And that was something that was also surprising to me. Again, I don't know exactly what I had in my mind, but I was very surprised by it. So when you do have those quarterly open houses and people can go down and see those different, is that the right word? You have some very distinct names for these boats that I had to write down when we were going through. But do you want to talk about those boats? You have 3 that you're actively building right now in the spring of 2025.
Yes, that's correct. And those are the projects that would be highlighted if you came down for an open house. So we have a 20-something foot open boat that is a commission, and that boat is going to be down in Casco Bay. So the name of the boat is the Casco Bay Beach Ketch. The gentleman who commissioned it has made some design modifications to it so that he can use it in the way that he wants, single-handing it, bringing it up on beaches to do some overnight camping. That boat is the biggest boat in the shop right now. It's on the bottom floor. It's being worked on by 3 apprentices, 2 of whom are in their second year. 1 is in their first year. I think something interesting to know about the crew on that boat, and this I think is typical of any year at the shop and the kind of apprentices that we get, but there are folks who have said, I never had worked with a chisel before. I didn't have access to tools growing up. I never knew how to sail. And here they are in their second year. This might be the 3rd boat that they have built. They're leading projects. They're leading their peers on our twice annual sailing expeditions where the apprentices go out into Penobscot Bay unsupported in our open boats that have been built by apprentices. And these people are learning enough that they can take those leadership roles by just having shown up and learning by doing, by having the experience of putting the tools to wood, lifting the sails in the wind. You see how things react, and you're learning by the experience of doing it. And that's a really powerful way to learn. So we have 2 other boats, the Washington County Peapod, as well as the prams that are downstairs. Do you want to talk about any of those?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the Peapod is also a commission. It really can vary depending on when you stop in to see the shop, what is happening. But yeah, the Peapod is being built by a second-year apprentice. And then the prams that Bella mentioned earlier, we designed in-house. Our shop director designed them specifically to be built and sailed by youth. So the junior apprentice programs that come from various school districts are building those. And that's a really cool way to see. So the similar, like, they come from a regular public school every day. A lot of schools don't offer like any kind of hands-on shop programs anymore. So I think this is a really unique way for kids to for students in middle school and high school to get their hands on tools and work with wood and build something that they ultimately get to use and learn to sail in. And they're just really cute. They're like beautiful little boats. And yeah. It's just amazing to see the kids show up every day and work on something and try things they don't know how to do. They're like, I have no idea how to do this, but by the end of this work day, we're going to figure it out and make a little more progress. And then they come back the next week and keep working at it. And then eventually they get to launch the boat before the end of the school year. And I think that's like a really rewarding process for a student of that age to go through.
How many lives do you think that you touch each year through the apprentice shop? I think that number has changed wildly over the 25 plus years that the Apprenticeshop has been around? 52 years.
53.
Yeah, going on 53, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, founded in 1972. So it definitely has expanded over the years since we moved to Rockland, our current location, in 1998. And with the building of that pier, that has enabled us to engage with a lot more folks through the sailing program. But I would say that if you're also counting people who are walking in, getting a tour, enjoying the campus, that it could be 1,000 people a year. In our programs specifically, it might be upwards of 500. But then when you start to add in people who are coming to our special events or free public sailing, the number increases pretty quickly.
What do you think, if we haven't touched on it, what do you wish the community knew about the Apprenticeshop or tourists? That could be two different questions, but
We kind of talked about it, just like how open and accessible the shop is to people and all the different ways you can participate in what we have to offer. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe the feeling that I would like people to come away with is that they don't need to have any prerequisite knowledge. Sailing can be really intimidating. You may need to own a boat to get out on the water. There's so many terms. There's so much to know to operate a vessel safely. The same thing with working in a wood shop. Not everyone grew up with access to a shop or someone in their family who built things and passed that knowledge on. The shop is a place where that does not matter. The less you know, probably the bigger the transformation is over the time that you're there. And that what we are hoping for is that you don't necessarily come away intent on being a sailor for the rest of your life or going into the maritime industry or being a boat builder, but that you're in your time at the shop, you're able to see what it is that you are capable of. And that is a change of attitude that you take with you into whatever else you choose to do after. So we want it to be a really welcoming space where people feel like it's okay that I don't know, that no one's going to judge me, no one's going to embarrass me. This is a place where people genuinely want to share their knowledge and to help other people see what it is they can do. So that would be kind of the philosophy I think I would like people to understand. And yeah, that they can come in. Our signage is not good. We don't have a big welcome, open, come on down sign, but not yet. But we're just, we want to let people know that they should sign up for something. It'll be fun and it'll be educational, and hopefully you'll come away thinking, wow, I just did that. What else
can I do?
Yeah.
Camden Famous did a feature on Lee Williams, who has Olive Rose chocolates, just a few weeks ago. And I had to really keep reminding her that we were going to talk about her chocolates because she really just wanted to talk about the Apprenticeshop and how much she loved it. And she has so much, is it art that she has on the wall there that is done by one of the apprentices?
Yeah, I think photographs and paintings and all kinds of things.
It made such a humongous impact on her life that she could almost not care less about talking about the chocolates with me. So I had heard from her, and then I talked to someone else and they were like, you really need to talk to the Apprenticeshop. And then when I met Bella, I was like, okay, you guys have to be on the podcast. You have to get the story out there, because I've lived here for 5 years and I didn't know the story.
Yeah.
It took meeting someone like Lee, who had been through your program and just really wanted to share how much it had impacted her life. And I know right now you have someone from Portugal who is an instructor and has been building a boat that he plans to sail from Rockland back to Portugal and to teach boat building there. Do you want to share a little bit more about him?
Sure. Yeah. So João is a alum of the apprentice program, and he came here to the US, did the 2-year program, and then ended up staying, like so many people do. He had the vision to build a sailing sardine carrier that is typical of the design in Portugal that would carry sardines. They're not something that's typically built any longer. And he wanted to build one of these boats with youth, with volunteers, and use that to reinvigorate boat building in Portugal. And that is not an uncommon theme for people who have gone through the Apprenticeshop and for the founder, Lance Lee, which is to learn something at the shop and then go start another place like that. So you kind of expanding the number of people who might have this experience all across the world, all across the US. Places like the Apprenticeshop have sprouted up as a result of alumni starting a similar program. And that means that you don't just have to come to Rockland to learn how to build boats. You could do it in Portugal. You can do it in Russia. You can do it in France. The Apprenticeshop is now hosting this, what we call Break the Anchor. That was sort of the name of the idea and the project. This sailing sardine carrier, it's 38 feet long. It's a huge vessel. It's being built out in the yard under a boat shed by youth in our junior apprentice program. So in addition to building the small prams, they're also working on this huge sailing sardine carrier. It's taking multiple years. Everyone's kind of plugging into a different phase of the project. But yes, the ultimate goal is that he will complete that, or that this community of youth and volunteers will complete the project, and they'll sail it. Some very intrepid folks will sail it across the Atlantic to Portugal. So yeah, there's a lot of passion and creativity among apprentice alums or apprentices in the program, as well as alums and staff, and to do really ambitious and maybe what might seem wild to some folks, but there's an attitude at the Apprenticeshop that really anyone can do anything if they put their mind to it. And if you have a community of people who are around you supporting you, you can do all that much more.
Beautifully put. Before we get to the end, where we're going to talk about what you're famous for, I do think it's worth, maybe you can share a little bit about the sailing here in the Mid-Coast. I am not a sailor. I like to go out and sail, but I know that the Mid-Coast is a world-class destination for sailing, and you are teaching the next generation coming up, as well as adults, in Rockland and in Camden every summer. What makes this so special, do you think? Why is this such a
like
world-class
sailing in the
destination?
Mid-Coast? Yeah, it is a world-class. Like I sometimes forget that people come from all over the world to sail here. And yeah, we have, world-class facilities for cruising and people who, travel the world by boat, like here in Camden and Rockland. It's also like a really fun place to sail, especially Rockland Harbor. Like for a kid, you can feel like you're captaining your own boat. You maybe don't know what you're doing, but you're like learning while you're out there. But it's like really fun. Like the harbor is very safe, especially our little corner of it. At the Apprenticeshop, there's lots of like little places to explore. You can like go on your own little adventure and feel like you're like out at sea just in the harbor. So I think that's a really great environment for youth to learn to sail, and adults too. And then if you just get out beyond the breakwater, you're in like the best, like Penobscot Bay is like some of the best sailing grounds, and it's so it's just right there, like just beyond where we are. It's basically our backyard, which is so cool. Yeah, so I think that makes it a very unique place to get out on the water and learn how to sail.
Yeah. All right. So before we get to what you're famous for, to recap the ways to be involved with the Apprenticeshop, you can come for a Friday sail. You can become an apprentice. You can take a weekend workshop. You can take a 9-month apprentice ship and a 2-year. You can go down and use the waterfront. You can also commission a boat to be built. Is there anything else that I've missed?
I would just point out that even if you're not here full-time. If you want to follow what's happening at the Apprenticeshop, you can check out our website. You can follow us on social media. You can sign up for our newsletter. We're also always looking for volunteers. And we do have an interesting pilot program this summer with a morning in Maine. So that's an interesting community partnership where folks can get out on a morning in Maine for 2 hours. They get dropped off at the Apprenticeshop dock, come into the shop, get a full tour, and then do a short hands-on exercise to just get a taste for what it's like to work with wood and tools. That's a new program for us, but we're really excited about it. And it's going to be mostly on second and fourth Friday afternoons in the summer. So that's something that you can definitely find out about on our website. But it should be a nice way where you could
Get a taste of everything that
Yeah.
we offer,
Yeah.
within a half a day
Yeah,
span of
correct.
time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that program is going to be called A Journey Through Wooden Boats.
Okay, I love that. And so I've given you lots of time to think now.
Yeah.
What is the Apprenticeshop famous for?
We're not necessarily like a place where we're talking about wooden boats in the past. It's like they're alive, and we're using boat building and seamanship as tools for learning and personal growth and engaging with our community, but sort of looking ahead into the future. What do you think?
I totally agree with that. And the other thing that I will say is that we're the first out on the water in the
Yes.
spring. So we get the floats out. The kids in the high school sailing program from Camden,
They're all suited
Rockland,
up.
Islesboro are out there in dry suits
Wow.
on a day like this where the rest of us are looking like, can I have another coat, please? And they're out there sailing.
Yeah,
They're the
getting
first
like
people
sprayed in the face.
yeah, to animate the harbor. And businesses see that there are no leaves on the trees to hide the harbor. Everyone can see those kids out there sailing. And the Apprenticeshop makes that possible.
That's amazing. And before we go, where can they find you online?
www.apprenticeshop.org.
And on Instagram, I
Mhm.
believe it's at The Apprenticeshop.
Correct. Yeah, and Facebook, and you can get to our newsletter on our website very easily. You can sign up.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
having us.
Hi, I'm Jess Dean with Remax Jarrett & Cohn here in Midcoast, Maine. Our real estate agency has 4 offices across the Midcoast, but more importantly, we live and work in the communities we serve. Our agents aren't just here for real estate. We're showing up for our neighbors. We support local businesses, volunteer at events, and regularly give back through fundraisers and community initiatives. This isn't just where we work, it's home, and we care about the people who make it special. Find home with Remax Jarrett & Cohn.